All right, how's it going, folks? Your average student here, and what I have today is a very special video. It is my review of the OnePlus 7 Pro. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and comment on this video if you enjoy the content and want to see more. I'm really trying to get the channel to grow and become a community of tech lovers. At the same time, I'm still going to try and keep doing my student mentoring aspect of this YouTube channel. I really need your support, and I'm going to keep doing my best to produce videos constantly. So anyways, folks, here it is, the OnePlus 7 Pro. Now, when thinking of doing this review, the first word that kept coming into mind was fast. So I'm really not going to get into too much of the tech specs in this video. I kind of did that in my unboxing. But essentially what you need to know is this device has the top of the line specs available right now in 2019. And that includes an in-display fingerprint reader, a 90 Hz refresh rate. And so essentially this device is just blazing fast. OnePlus 7 Pro's actual custom skin is actually very light. Adds a lot of functionality, and in all honesty, I do prefer it over stock Android. And because of that 90 Hz display paired with that UFS 3.0 storage, this device is just blazing fast. By far the fastest device I've ever used. It's never once crashed on me and never once hiccuped, and this device knows nothing but obliterate any task you give it. And again, that's really what my reviews are going to focus on. My real world usage and my experience of this device. Not so much the nitty gritty of what's in it, what's not. Because essentially this device is just top of the line across the board in terms of specs. So the speed is what really stood out to me when using this device. And of course the second thing, which you're going to interact with the most, is the display. The display on this device is actually just beautiful. Honestly, like that's just quite simply put, it's beautiful. It's a 90 Hz OLED QHD Plus display. It's got the long aspect ratio. Color accuracy is on point. The settings menu gives you a lot of different ways to tweak the vividness and the color accuracy of the display. But I find right out the box with Vivid on, it's just beautiful. It's really great to look at. It gives you really nice saturation. Now, it's not as saturated, I've found, as like other Galaxy devices, but it really is a nice display to look at. And because of that 90 Hz refresh rate on an OLED panel, it really is the display to beat on the market. Everything is super sharp, and just scrolling through web pages is just really enjoyable. The third thing I really loved about this device was the build quality. Now, I mentioned when I first got the device out the box, I really noticed the heft. It's a big device, but I do enjoy the build of it. Once you know that it's a big device and once you realize how hefty it actually is, you get over it really quickly, and it really is a pleasure to use with two hands. I do find with one hand and my relatively big hands that I find it kind of difficult to reach across the screen with one hand. I kind of have to adjust my grip, and so this is definitely a two-handed device. It's not as pleasurable to use with one hand as the Pixel 3a was, or even like an iPhone 10, the smaller devices. But overall, it's a really great build quality. Mine came in this beautiful nebula blue, which is my favorite color on any device. Blue is my favorite color, and I think just the overall design aesthetic, and I do have this clear case on. Let me take that off for you guys. The overall design aesthetic and how premium the device feels is great. Now, one thing I do have to mention that relates to the build quality is the lack of wireless charging. Now, the back of the device, even though from my understanding it is glass, this device does not actually support wireless charging. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but for me, the warp charger that comes standard with the device is actually really fast. I don't find myself missing using wireless charging. And speaking of charging, let's go ahead and talk about the battery life. Now, the OnePlus 7 Pro does actually have the biggest battery of any OnePlus phone that they've ever made, which is about 4,000 milliamp hours. And I found myself getting consistently about a day and a half's use out of this battery. I typically end with 35 to 40% of battery at the end of the day, and that really is with heavy usage. I'm talking about lots of games, GPS, messaging, Spotify, and on my really heavy days, I'll get about 25-20% left of the battery, which for me is honestly great. So if you're a light to moderate user, and if you can turn down that 90 Hz refresh rate to 60 Hz, which you can in the settings, or even the QHD Plus resolution from 1440p to 1080p, you could probably get easily 2 days, no problem with this device. And from my understanding, this is something that they've improved with software updates, and I've definitely gotten about 2 software updates now ever since I got the device. And so it's great to see OnePlus listening to the consumer, listening to their community, and making improvements to the battery life, camera, etc., through software updates. Now, I did mention the camera, and let's go ahead and talk about that. Essentially, you do have a triple camera setup here, and actually 4 if you consider the pop-up selfie camera. But this device does take really good pictures. It's not Pixel 3a quality, and I'm going to go ahead and post some pictures up now while I'm discussing the camera review. But it is really good. It's a definitely step up from the OnePlus 6T and previous OnePlus devices. And it's no longer, I think, something painful that comes with the use of a OnePlus phone. I feel like before you had to settle with the camera, whereas now you can actually get good photos. The wide angle lens is definitely a pleasure to use, and it's definitely a welcome change coming from a Pixel 3a and an iPhone 10. I do find that the wide angle lens loses a bit of the detail and color accuracy seems to be a little bit off, but overall, it's a good phone. You're not gonna have any major problems with the camera on this smartphone. And so for me, those were the major points that came out to me when using this device consistently for the last 2 weeks. There are some other things worth mentioning. Now, because this is a OnePlus device, OnePlus is typically really fast with software updates. So you will be one of the first in lines to get the next Android software updates, which is always great. That in-display fingerprint sensor works really well for me. I've had little to no issues with it, recognizing my fingers. As you can see, it works really well. And even the face unlock works really well. The only thing that I do wish they gave with this device, or they would change, is an option for a smaller device. I mentioned that I love the build quality of this device, and that really does hold true. I do find it to be a bit too big for my liking. I really wish it could be a slightly smaller or have a slightly smaller version. I do wish they offered the OnePlus 7 non-Pro version in the United States, but unfortunately they don't. But overall, once you know what you're getting yourself into, which is a kind of a more hefty phone, yeah, and it's also bigger, once you get used to that, you really don't notice it, especially using it two-handedly. And it's definitely something that I don't think should push you away from what is overall a great phone. So what you guys have to realize is the OnePlus 7 Pro does actually come in at $699 for the model that I have. I believe it starts at $679 for the base 6GB of RAM, 128GB of storage model. And it does go up to $750 for the 12GB, 256GB model, which when you mix in with all the other pros that I mentioned earlier and a little bit of the cons, I still think you're getting one of the best price to performance smartphones of the year. So I do think OnePlus hit it out the ballpark with this phone. I think it does make a worthy OnePlus 6T successor. If I had the OnePlus 6T, I wouldn't necessarily upgrade to it. I would hold off till maybe the OnePlus 7T. But if you're on the market for a brand new smartphone, I definitely think the OnePlus 7 Pro is worth looking at. This really is a great smartphone to use. Something else worth noting is the fact that this device doesn't come with a USB-C to headphone jack adapter, which is needed if you wanted to use any kind of plug-in headphones with this device, because it does not have a headphone jack. Now for me, that's no issue. I mainly use Bluetooth devices anyways, but it is definitely something to consider. And it's definitely something I wish we would have seen, because you see it from devices like a $400 Pixel 3a. But then again, most premium smartphones are trending towards not having it anymore. So in conclusion, if you really want a jack of all trades, top tier smartphone for a relatively good price, I think the OnePlus 7 Pro is a really good deal and something you should definitely consider and look in store if you can. I know they're offering it with T-Mobile, and you can buy it directly from OnePlus 7 Pro's website. So that's it for me today, folks. Please leave a like and a comment down in this video for further suggestions. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.